I'd like to welcome all of you. We're on channel 12. This is why this is now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We're on channel 12, so this is why this is important. I know my voice can carry to all of you. I don't know, is it working?
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commission, I'd like to welcome all of you to our first of 3 public education and input sessions for discussing an indoor aquatic center. So it's very exciting that we are all here. My name's Elisa Franz, and I currently serve as the chairperson of the Parks and Recreation Commission. I have with me Ed Moran, Jason Shaden, and Melissa Rowan, who are also commissioners currently. And we are really looking forward to hearing the information. Obviously, we're going to take a few minutes to educate everyone so that we can be on the same page, but then we're really looking forward to hearing your input, your thoughts, your ideas. We want to hear from you because this is a community project, and so we need to hear from you. You can see behind me the session goals for tonight to communicate and clarify, so we're all kind of on the same page as to where municipal pool is right now, the status of it, and what life it has left. We have a representative, Jerry Peters, is here from the Ames Community School District so that he can update you on where the school district is. And then Keith Abraham, the Director of Parks and Recreation, is going to then give you the City of Ames pool needs and the project status there. Obviously, like I said, we are here to listen to the needs and wants of the community because they are very important to us. As a commission, we represent you, and we want to hear from you your thoughts, an opportunity to answer questions and concerns from you, and then help you understand what are the next steps in this process. We will have a short questionnaire at the end, so if you do have to leave early, we will try to make sure we do want to hear from you. So please complete that and share your thoughts with us. So I will go over to Keith Abraham, the Director of Parks and Recreation.
Welcome, everybody. So, first thing that we just want to kind of go through, and at times as we've been getting into this information and having conversations and discussions, one thing that we're finding is there's a lot of maybe misinformation and maybe some different perceptions of what's going on. That's why we're going to take this first part of the meeting just to kind of share, what's happening. So municipal pool, built in 1965. It is 50 years old. It is a city-owned building on school district property, yet the school district and the community center share operational and capital expenses 50-50. And just for everybody with this, we are going to be putting this PowerPoint on our website, and so people will be able to access it, or if you want the additional information, so just so you know that. We do have agreement with the school district. The current agreement has just been extended through June of 2017. And with it, generally speaking, the agreement says the school district has the pool from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then the City of Ames has it from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. on weekdays, and then on weekends and holidays or non-school days. Okay. So as far as operational expenses, how much are we putting in from a subsidy standpoint? Generally it's about $50,000 for each entity annually. So about $100,000, and that is just for custodial, chemicals, utilities, kind of those things that we just need to operate the facility. If we have a program and there's a subsidy for open swim or something, then the City of Ames will incur that expense. Okay, so just for those things, it's about $50,000 for each entity, $100,000 total. And then capital expenses, just over the last several years, you can see $16, $30, and $100,000 is what we spent last year. We're still in our fiscal year, which goes from July 1 to June 30th. So we haven't, we don't have those expenses all finalized for what we've spent so far this year. Okay, just a few pictures. If you haven't been up to Municipal Pool, you know, it's very, the dome shape, you know, it does have 8 lanes, but for swim meets, you only use 6 because of diving, entry, the 2 lanes, it's too shallow to use. There is no permanent seating. It's all done through bleachers and, you know, not a lot of deck space. We need to keep the bleachers up there for events. And for swim lessons, we use that as well. You know, there is, you know, one of the things you'll see a little later, when they design the pool, they have the lights right over the pool, you know, and that's one of the things that they would like to, the engineers would like to see us do, is move that lighting so it's not over the water. But we'll talk a little bit more. So that's just what that picture shows. Does have a diving board, does have the deep end on the one side. You know, as far as office space, you know, gets used for storage. There's a lot of things that we keep up there between the city, the school district, Ames Cyclone Aquatics Club. There's a lot of stuff that we need to keep. Right now, we do have men's locker room, women's locker room, and we have a coach's office that also serves as a family changing room when we have open swim. Okay. As far as hours of operation, you know, the school district, you know, they have it. They may have swim team practice prior to school. ACAC's in there prior to school. We have noon lap swim from 11 to 1:30. School district has, again, from 1:30 to 5, although most of the time they use it just from after school until 5 o'clock. They do have occasional class, and then Special Olympics, you know, that they have some classes in there. But we generally do have the lap swim from 11 to 1:30, 6:45 to 9 p.m. Weekends vary, and then ACAC is in there generally from 5 to 6:45. When swim team, school district swim team is not in session, then they'll get in there right after school. But then they also have morning, weekend, and summer hours as well. As far as programming, just a few things. I already kind of talked about school district, swim team, practice, meets, camps, classes. For us, lessons, lap swim, open swim, training, just a wide variety of different programs. And then ACAC is basically with their swim team practice and meets. From our perspective, just some of the things that we do gives you just a few numbers over the last few years in regards to swim lessons, open swim, lap swim. You can see anywhere from 12,500 to 14,000 attendance just for those 3 programs. Okay. As far as municipal pool, one of the things that that we've been hearing, and it's not just recent, it's for you know, several years, especially once we opened up Furman and some of those activities that have been happening at Furman, people say, why can't we do that year-round? Can we do this? Can you do that? One of the things, and Tim Teeter from ACAC is here, he can attest to it, Dan Flannery from the swim teams, our staff, is very difficult. Right now, everybody wants additional pool time to do things, but there really isn't any additional pool time available. So some things, swim lessons, we have waiting lists right now. People want to take more swim lessons. We can't get enough people in. I already mentioned ACAC. We've had requests for a master swim program, but we don't have the time available to be able to do that. Water walking. People really like it in the summertime. Hey, can we do that year-round? If you're thinking about a new facility, can you incorporate that some way? Adult programming, zero-depth entry. And a lot of people, if you do zero-depth entry, is when you're right there at the water's edge, the water's that deep, and it gradually gets deeper. Now, people think a lot of times that, hey, that's great for kids, especially the little ones, but we also hear from the older adults that it's great because they can just ease into the pool. They can get to 3.5, 4 foot water and be able to move around. Play features, warm water, you know, and right now between the pool up at Municipal, right now we keep it depending on what activities that we have going on. It might be 83 degrees, it might be 82 or 81. depending on what time of year and whether we have swim lessons or not. But generally, the competitive swimmers like the water about 78 to 80. And then depending on what age, if you have preschool swim lessons, which we have, a lot of times the recommendation is that the water should be maybe 88 degrees. As you get older, the water temperature comes down, to 86 or to 84. So it's just a compromise that what we've done. And then therapeutic activities. People have, said, hey, if we're going to build a new facility, is this something? So these are just some services that people are asking for that we have not been able to meet with the current program. Okay. With Municipal Pool, we did have engineering assessments in 2006, 9, and 12. And when you saw those capital costs earlier for the last 3 years and for this year, some of the things that they recommended are captured in those costs. We've replaced the boilers. We've did the bonding of the pool, electrical bonding. We have replaced electrical panels. We just did that this week. We have done filters, pool filters, and there's just a wide variety of things. Some things that we haven't done yet with it is, and these are just some of the recommendations that they have given in our study, and some things we have elected not to do just because of the cost right now. One of them is the lights over the water. To replace that could be a $40,000 to $50,000 project. The desert air modifications, that's just the air circulation and everything. That was, I think, maybe $100,000 or maybe even more. So all of these things put together, could be, $800,000 roughly, somewhere in that, maybe up to $1 million, depending on when we do them. So we'll mention, though, the pool is safe to swim in. These are just things that still need to be done, and we do have some pictures, just to show. And these are things that came out in the study as well. Hey, the water, the steel piping, the corrosion. Anytime you have chlorine, obviously that affects stuff. So, this is one thing that we did. This is an inlet to the pool. And we actually, 2 years ago, we did shut down for a week or so in the summer, and we replaced all of those. This is one thing that between Jerry and I said, well, if we don't do this, if this goes, then it's going to be a major shutdown to repair. So what we've really been trying to do is, of the repairs that we have done with Municipal, we feel confident that we've got 3 to 5 years of life before something major may happen to the facility. So that's kind of what we've been trying to do while we sort through this question and what to do with aquatics facilities in the community. Just some other pictures. There is some concrete issues, some cracking, some things that we've done to try to shore things up. In the meantime, again, just some of the water. Some staining, some different things that are happening there. Electrical panels, like I said, we just replaced those this week to bring those up to code. So that just kind of gives you a quick overview of where we're at with Municipal Pool, how much life do we have, some of the issues that are still facing it. So what we're going to do at this time, Jerry Peters from the school district is here, and he's just going to kind of give you an overview of what they've been doing in regards to a competitive pool, what their needs are, and some of the issues with it. So, Jerry?
Thank you, Keith. The school district has been utilizing the swimming pool primarily for their swimming team. Previously, they have had classes during the day, but the fitness programming in the school has tended more towards dry land fitness, and there's a weight room that was put in, and so the students are using that more so. The special ed classes still utilize the pool sometimes during the day, but not quite as often. Oh, thanks. Go to the light. I'm sorry. So primarily then during the day, the special ed classes will use the pool. The school district's main focus and purpose is teaching and learning. And As far as the swimming pool goes, we have high school boys and girls swim team, and so the school district interest from that is to be able to provide a good facility to be able to have those swimming team and that extra activity. So the need has been defined from our school district perspective as a training competitive pool facility. That's where our needs are, that's where our use would come in. A 25 or a 50 meter pool has been discussed. The preference would be a 50 meter pool, and that would be the preference. Water depth, we're also interested in a fast pool in order to go with that competitive swimming pool. Depth is a consideration. You know, with a certain amount of depth, you can get a fast pool for that competitive swimming and to be able to enhance that. The lap swimmers, competitive swimmers have a tendency to want the cooler water. You know, when they aggressively are working out in the pool, they get a lot of energy built up, and so the cooler temperature is a little bit more supportive of that activity. We've discussed options for seating as we've gone through this analysis. The seating would be spectator seating and having a big enough building to be able to attract the people that are going to be able to watch the events in this high school competition. Locker rooms are a concern with respect to having separate or shared locker rooms for the high school swimmers. Currently, the school district has monies available to be able to build this competitive facility. The challenge that we got into is when we recognized that the operational cost for this size of 50-meter facility is going to be a lot greater than what we currently pay. So right now the school district is struggling with being able to get a handle on how to manage that operational cost. And so we've looked at considerations with partnering with the city to be able to come up with maybe a mutually effective or beneficial solution to be able to meet our needs.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. So it just gives you kind of an overview of where they're at. Okay. So then in regards to an indoor aquatic center, so there's a competitive side.
What is the current size of the pool? How many meters?
25 yards by 25 yards.
Oh, so not even meters.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of odd, and Jerry, you might be able to help out, or maybe Dan or Tim. Generally, if it goes 50, it's 50 meters, but high school is usually 25 yards is what they swim. Is that correct, Dan? Yeah. So in regards to the Parks and Recreation Commission priorities, back in 2003, if any of you have been in the community during that time, there was a recplex, the bond referendum that came to the voters, and it got voted down. But there were a number of priorities. There was outdoor aquatic center, indoor aquatic center, gymnasiums, and then also developing some community parks within the community. So with the recplex, they kind of tried to hit the gymnasiums, the indoor aquatic center, outdoor aquatic center. Like I said, it failed. So the commission came right back and said, hey, outdoor aquatic center is still our #1 priority. And then what happened in 2007, that referendum was passed pretty solidly, 73% I think is what it was. And with the school district, with their bond referendum that they had for revamping all of the elementary schools, they have put in full-size gymnasiums in the elementary schools. So that's kind of addressed some of the gymnasium issues that we have. So you can see that the next one, based on what we just talked about with the municipal pool, is that the indoor aquatic center is something that needs to happen. So again, competitive side, recreational side, some of those recreational features. As far as funding, not going to spend a lot of time on this, but one of the things, Guido Winokur, who was a resident of Ames from the university, she bequeathed $1.7 million, to the Parks and Recreation Department. And very generous gift. We initially were going to try to use that to purchase some land out in West Ames to develop into a community park. That didn't progress like we thought it would. So about, not quite, maybe quite, but just about 2 years ago, the Parks and Recreation Commission approved or recommended to the City Council, and City Council approved to use that money towards an indoor aquatic center. So which is, it's not quite $1.8 million now with the interest that it's been earning, but that money has been earmarked for an indoor aquatic center. Okay? For the rest of the money, a bond referendum would need to be passed. Okay? That will go to the voters. Okay? And then obviously there's donations. If you look at Furman, the Furmans generously donated $2 million to that project. There was a $1 million anonymous donor, to that project. So there is potential for somebody to come forward and help with a project as well. Okay? So what will that do to you? And I'll just say, hey, these are just approximate numbers, for you. And this is just from the capital side, from the bond referendum. That's what what you're seeing up here. It most likely will change. So, don't hold us to it that when we go to a referendum that it's going to be 11.44 cents. It might be, more than that. But this just kind of gives you an idea. So, residential and commercial, and there's the rollback at the state level, so things change. So these numbers might change a little bit, but generally speaking, as far as today, if we were to do a referendum or the voters pass a referendum for $5 million, if you're a resident, residential property, it would be $11.44 per year is what your taxes would increase related to this pool. If you were commercial, it'd be $18.47. And you can see that if it's $6 or $7 million, what that difference is as well. So now I want to mention also is with the $5 million, okay, $5 million if it was passed as a referendum, we add the 1.8 from Guido Winokur, so we get $6.8 million towards a new aquatic center. So that 1.8 would be added to these numbers. Now, at this time, we don't know what a facility would cost. Okay, we can say, generally speaking, it could be somewhere between $6 and $9 million, but that's really what we want to hear from you guys tonight, and that's what Elisa had alluded to, is we want you to tell us, hey, what do you want to see in an aquatic center? So hopefully when we get to the next steps, you'll see that we'll take all this information and we'll have some additional public meetings in the future, hopefully, that will say, all right, here's what we heard, here are some drawings, here's what it's going to cost capital-wise, but then we also will let you know what it's going to cost operationally as well. So you know that, hey, this is what we currently subsidize the facility with. If we build this, do these programs, this is what it's going to cost to subsidize the facility as well. So, and again, we'd obviously love to get it to a point where we could have no subsidy, for a facility, but there's not a lot of indoor facilities that do that. So just let you know that. So, with an indoor aquatic center, things that we want to consider, programs and activities. What is it that you want to see programmed in there? Kind of went through, some ideas on a previous slide, the therapeutic pool, maybe play structures, water walking. So that's what we want to hear from you. Separate basin or connected basin, and we'll show you some different examples of that in just a little bit. Water depths, what should they be? Water temperature, air quality, support space, it could be offices for staff, and then what are all those features that we want to put in. Okay, so here are just some examples. Okay, this is Blue Valley in Overland Park, Kansas. So what this has is it's actually two separate basins. There's some lap lanes. Okay, there's a zero depth entry, and you can see, so zero depth entry over here. You have the current channel for water walking. The water gets a little deeper. There is kind of an area here that separates the two. And then you have the lap lane pool. So this is two basins. Okay? Some of the advantage of this is that if you have two basins, you can have different water temperatures in those basins. Another advantage to this is that if you can imagine this facility right here, you get the little kids. If you go to Furman, what happens? They do have accidents at times, and if you have to shut down the pool, this pool gets shut down, this one can still function. So one of the disadvantages of that is if you have two basins, you need two filter systems, two circulation systems, and so on. So those are, and like I said, we'll just give you some some different examples. Here's just a picture of that same facility with the current channel. That's a zero depth on this end, and then their lap lane pool as well. Okay. With the Algona YMCA, now you got one body of water. It's connected right here. So this whole thing, one circulation system, same water temperature, generally speaking, and yet there is still some separation. You do have a zero depth entry down here, goes to a little deeper area. You got a family slide. So just some different features. You got the diving board up here, so some deeper water on this end. So just again, these are just to give you some ideas as far as what a facility might look like. Okay. Now with this one, with Clinton, Missouri, now you got 4 bodies of water. And with this, so you've got your lap lanes over here, you've got your zero depth play structure, you've got your current channel. This here is what they have as a therapy pool. And you can see there's ADA, it's compatible, therapy jet set, therapy pool. And that's something that we want to get from you tonight too. If a therapy pool is something that you have an interest in or think that we should really consider as a community, you need to help us define what does that mean. You're talking 86 degree water, 84 degree water, 90 degree water. Are there some different amenities there? The one thing I want to point out with this picture too, if you see the slide, you do have the steps that go up the slide. Right here is the line of the building. So the steps, and then when you come down, you wind up, that's inside the building. When you start the slide, you actually go outside of the building and then come back in. What that does is when you do that, you can still have a slide, but it saves building space. You need less of a footprint inside, so you can save costs if you're going to do that. One thing in talking with some pool consultants, generally speaking, what they do is they're going away from actually a plunge pool, which is what that's called. So when you come off the slide, you go into water, kind of like we have at Furman with the tube slides or the drop slide. What they do is they call it a run out. So the slide just kind of continues. So when you come down the slide, generally body slide, you come down, and you just right on the deck. It's almost like a trough. If you've seen that, you just climb out of the trough, and then somebody else comes down after you. And what that does is you don't have to have that plunge pool and have an extra body of water and stuff. So these are all things that obviously we would need to consider. So there's just a picture. And this is with this one, you can kind of see maybe a little bit of a theme, kind of the pirate stuff. You got this kind of a ship. So here again is 2 bodies of water. You can see that now the slide is all inside the building. So you do have, again, you have to have more deck space. You have to have more area. You do have the current channel, the zero depths, the deep air or the lap lanes. One of the things I've been talking to pool consultants also is with like with a current channel, is it possible, depending on what the depth of water you had in lap lanes, could you put some jets, in the corners, along the sides, and get water circulating in a rectangular pool and have water walking in there? So you're really kind of using the same pool for multi-functions. You obviously wouldn't be able to have lap swimming and water walking at the same time, but again, those are things that we can look at. The less that you have to add, the less cost. The more you add, obviously the more cost is involved. So there's another picture. You got the current channel, you got the slide inside. Okay. Here's another one. So just different variations, different things. Here again, you've got the plunge pool for the slide, but it does go outside the building. Here you get a little bit more of a current channel, some different things going on there, but it's still 2 separate basins, a little bit more of a play structure, some type of a slide. Okay. So that just kind of gives you some ideas as to what could be. And right now, the commissioners with staff, through our discussions, what we want now is from you to give us feedback on the information that you've heard. from the school district's plans to our plans. What would you like to see in this, in this facility? So at this point, what we'd like you to do is if you can come up, if you have a question, again, because this is on Channel 12, we're going to put it on our website so people, if they can't make one of these 3 meetings, they can still watch this. If you can come up to the podium, ask your question, give your comment. We're going to be, making notes up here so we can capture everything. So at this point, so if somebody has a comment, you can come on up. And if you got more, you can always make a line, so kind of move it along a little bit. So you good?
I'm good. I don't know about
And with these questions, these are just things, hey, would help us out. What kinds of features, what kinds of activities, how would you use it? And even if you're one of those individuals maybe doesn't use municipal pool right now, but you would use it if it had this or if there was these programs, let us know that. And then also in regards to, where should it be located? Right now, the school district has offered the city of Ames, space up at the high school to have a facility. And again, we're still, like Jerry alluded to earlier, we're still having conversations. Is this a joint facility? Is it all under one roof? Is it 2 separate facilities side by side? Is it 2 separate facilities at 2 separate locations? Those are all things that we haven't, figured out. That's where we want your input. So, go ahead.
You started to answer my question about where should it be located. I know that the current site is one of the options, but what are the other possible sites that are even being looked at in terms of in terms of a shared facility, and also in terms of if the City of Ames indoor facility is separate from the high school? What locations are available for us to think about where we want it to be? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have looked at our park system to see if there was any place in there. Oh, okay. So her question is if this facility isn't just one facility and it is 2 separate facilities, are there other locations that the City of Ames is looking at right now to put a pool? We have looked in the park system. There were some options when we did the Recplex Gateway, where our administration offices. That was an option, building into the hillside. The middle school was where we're going to put the Recplex. Not sure if that's a good option. But within the park system, we really haven't found a good location. We have been kind of looking around, see, hey, is there someplace else that we could do that? We really haven't come up with any good options. So if you do have something, let us know. Okay? William?
My name is William Jenks. I'm a parent of an ACAC swimmer, parent of a former ACAC swimmer, parent of high school swimmers. I swim. So I'm an interesting party. But the thing I want to point out is that this is a once-in-a-lifetime decision. You guys have noted that the current pool is 50 years old, and for practical purposes, that is once-in-a-lifetime decision for most of us, okay? And I think a couple of critical mistakes were made with the Furman facility, as great as it is. The biggest one being the width of the pool being whatever it is, 22 and a half yards, right, instead of the full 25 that it should have been. I think that we can't say cost is no issue. Cost is clearly an issue, but we need to keep in perspective that this is a 50-year building in all likelihood. Whatever we say it is, it's going to be a 50-year building. Gilman Hall, Lord knows, is not listed as a 100-year building when it was built. It's going to be a 50-year building, and we need to plan for the future. We need to plan for the expansion of Ames. We need to plan for the fact that we ought to be programming quite a bit more than we are. We are also in a retirement community. There's no reason we shouldn't be having a much more active retirement use of the pool, of an indoor facility. We shouldn't go cheap on this. We need a big, serious facility for competition, and we should find a way to meet the other needs. And we should realize that this is a long-term commitment that we're making to the city. And if the time comes that we need to cut this or that out, we need to make sure that we go back to the interested parties and say, is this the right cut? Because I think we made a couple of mistakes the last time around. And I'm sure they were well-intentioned, but if we made mistakes like that again, we could be cutting off our nose to save a few bucks.
So William, do you have, just to clarify?
Sure.
So, very well said. So with it, are there specific things, you talked about the competitive
Well, so my
venue.
perspective is that there really is no serious option besides the 25 by 50.
Okay.
That is the pool you need. And the reason that you need that pool is that there's a huge marginal difference between what you can program in a 25-yard pool and what you can program in a 25 by 50. In a 25 by 50, you can run the short course, 25, 30 lanes wide, which means that you could have high school program going on here and adult swim lessons going on here, just in parallel, with a bulkhead in the middle separating them. You could have swim club going on here, lessons going on here. You could have kayaking going on here. You could have, any number of things going on. Essentially, you get two pools in one for many, many, many activities if you're looking at a 50 by 25. Furthermore, you accommodate both the short course and the long course season in the competitive swimming. In terms of competitive swimming, in terms of bringing in big meets, okay? Big meets where we're talking about bringing in 750 people, 1,000 people. I'm talking about competitors, not total, right? Because there's always parents that come with these. Right. In the winter, if you've got a 50-meter pool, you can put a bulkhead in the middle and you've got 2 by 25-yard pools, and that's the winter season is a 25-yard season. Now you've got essentially 2 pools going at once, right? So you can cycle a lot more people through, okay? So there's the difference between what you can do in a 25-yard pool and what you can bring into Ames in terms of economic activity with the 50 by 25 versus just a 25 square, there's just no comparison. Yes, I acknowledge that the operating cost will be higher, but the great majority of the marginal value is also in the difference between that 25 by 25 and 25 by 50.
So from the competitor, just one more question for you.
Sure.
So in that situation, you have the swimmers, competitive swimmers, swim lessons, other activities. What would your thoughts be in regards to water temperature?
Well, I'm not the coach, okay? But, so I swim both at Bayer and at the city pool. And Bayer is obviously run almost entirely for competitive swimmers. For reasons that are unclear to me, it's warmer than the Ames High School pool most of the time, okay?
Yep.
If the Ames High School pool is 81, 82 a lot of the time, it's probably 84, I would guess, just from the way it feels. I could live with a lot of different temperatures. Obviously, we'd prefer it cooler, right? We'd prefer it cooler.
Right.
But if it's and I don't know how many days it takes to cool down the pool, but we can cool down the pool for a big meet. Right.
Which we do right now.
If you say, look, we're going to have the big state meet July 25th through 28th, whatever. July 20th, we can drop the pool temperature, or however many days it takes to get it down to what's ideal for competition. I don't see that as a major, major issue. I see it as an issue that would argue for separate basins, particularly if you want super warm water in other places. But if I had to choose between separate basins and 50 by 25, I'll take a warm water 50 by 25 that I can cool down temporarily any day.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay. Anybody else?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Kelly Welsh-Wingate, and I have a couple different scenarios that I'm an interested pool user. One, I'm a triathlete and swimmer myself, so, on the competitive basis, I also play water polo. And I have a couple kids who have done swim lessons and just like to take to pools to be active. One thing that I didn't see kind of presented up here that I think might be really useful is having a 50-meter cold water pool in the same facility as a 25-yard or meter pool. And this would offer options to have, because you've got a time of day that everyone wants to be doing lap swimming, swim team, all that kind of stuff. So that gives continuous access for lap swimmers, as well as being able to have high school ACAC and even have those at the same time. It also gives a big benefit if you're going to have swim meets, because then you can take the whole facility and you have a warm-up pool, and then you have your swim meet. So then you have an opportunity to bring in more funds to help offset some costs. I don't know how much that would help, but, and you can also have water polo and water polo meets in those pools. Then in a completely separate facility, you would have your more recreational uses, so warmer water pool, your therapy pool, and I think it would be really cool to partner with a hotel and have them build on the site and help offset some of the operational expenses by being able to offer their patrons access to that facility. Because like we as a family have traveled all the way up to Minnesota to go to the aquatic center up there. We've gone over to Eastern Iowa has one. We've gone and stayed overnight in Des Moines to go to that one down there. So I think people would come here as a tourism activity and stay in that hotel to go to the aquatic center, and that could help offset some of the operational expenses on that side. So that's kind of my ideas.
Yeah, and one thing that you mentioned in regards to the hotels, motels, one of the things, in addition to these input sessions, we are going to do what we're calling target audience input sessions and try to go to the users. So we'll have something with the Ames Cyclone Aquatics Club, the lap swimmers, but the hotel motel operators, we want to have sit down with them as well. And not necessarily, our thought wasn't maybe talking about, hey, building one. Depending on where the land is, there are probably some issues legally, whether or not you can build a hotel on public property. But it may be a situation where we partner with the hotels and motels and offer guest passes or something, for their guests to be able to utilize it, which could increase revenue as well. No, very good, thank you. Go ahead, Amy.
Amy Pyle, I'm the Ames High diving coach. I'm 100% with Mr. Jenks. As far as diving goes, people don't realize that right now we have an 8-lane pool, 6 of them being competitive. But when the Ames High swim team is in the pool, they are using all 8 lanes, can only dive from 6. The diving team, I have everybody that can take 7th and 8th period off. In other words, cram their classes into the first 6 periods and then second semester add more classes so that we can dive in a safe environment. Otherwise, the swimmers, because we take 2 lanes when we dive, the swimmers have to either circle swim or swim back and forth along the side lane line, which is very dangerous because I can't guarantee you my divers are going to go straight, nor can I guarantee you that the swimmers are going to hug the lane line like they're supposed to. So it's a sad situation, really, because then we become a separate entity. Even though we are one team, we work out at a different time, and we don't feel that we're a team. You don't go in the locker room together, to get together before and after, and some of my divers cannot get 7th and 8th off. And so then some of my divers are in their 7th and 8th, and we're, okay, go now, So it is really an inadequate situation for what is the Ames High swimming and diving team. Another thing I want to point out is there is only one locker room for staff. I am a woman, Dan is a man. It doesn't work. And for some reason, the man got the locker room. So, yeah, we need more locker rooms. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa Sorensen, and I have 2 competitive swimmers. One is a current ACAC swimmer, and one swims in college, but was a former ACAC swimmer, both Ames High swimmers as well. And I guess I want to come up here and protest my vision for the 50-meter pool for numerous reasons. ACAC as a club has, my child's 15 years old now, she's been in it since she was 6, and we have grown leaps and bounds. I did the registration for ACAC for, I think, 7 years, and it's unbelievable how much we've grown, although the problem is we don't have the space. We can't keep accepting kids because we don't have the time or space. In fact, we've opened up satellite sites in Fort Dodge. We're trying to acquire pool time space anywhere we can get. In fact, over the month of December, my child, as well as with a couple of others who are trying to achieve some pretty high goals that require a 50-meter pool, traveled to Iowa City their entire Christmas break so they could practice in a 50-meter pool. And in the past 2 months, we've been driving to Grinnell with our coach and a handful of kids so we can practice in a 50-meter pool, because it's very hard to go and compete in something that you don't practice in. As far as our current pool, I think most people that are here are all in agreement that we need a new pool. We talked a little bit about the safety, and I will say there are issues with the pool, particularly the air quality. My daughter was taken to the hospital by an ambulance from practice at ACAC because the air quality is so poor. She never had asthma before and has asthma, although I will say now that she has gone to college in her new pool, she has never had an issue. And I can't tell you, we all talk about the chlorine cough, especially when the temperature outside is super cold and the temperature inside the Ames High pool gets so hot. I mean, literally your eyes are burning. The chlorine is coming off the surface of the pool, especially when the kids get in there and start kicking it up in the air. So there definitely is some issues there. Obviously, my kids are never going to see the day of light in this new pool because they're going to be well out of school before it's ever finished. But I do think for this community, it would be a huge asset. I also have traveled many, many places to many, many swim meets, and there are so many awesome facilities out there, and they're packed with people, and they're just bustling. And I think that Ames would benefit from having something like that. And the community, the hotels and all that, we talk about all that, just the impression that people get of Ames. I mean, when I go to another community and see what they have to offer, and you know, I think, oh my gosh, I would love to live there. This is a great place. We have nothing like that in Ames. My kids are bored. They have nothing to do. And lastly, I'm going to say something about location. I guess my preference would be at Ames High. And the reason for that is the Ames High swimmers practice before school and immediately after school. It would be very challenging for a parent to drop their kid off at 5 a.m. practice and figure out a way to get them from practice to school. And how long could you practice if you had to have that commute time? I also think we're putting our kids at risk when it's wintertime and the weather is bad and you're building the pool, like you said, at Gateway, and they've got to make it to Ames High on time after getting up, at the crack of dawn. They're half asleep anyway, and get to school. And if they only get it for that little block of time after school, and they have to spend half their time traveling to the facility. So I think having it at Ames High is pretty important. So.
And just a minute, Melissa. So just so can clarify this a little bit, if there was a competitive pool built, I think there's no doubt that the competitive pool would be at the high school, right, Jerry? For the most part? Yes. Okay. It's when I threw out Gateway as an option, that would be if the city of Ames looked at or went after some of these recreational type facilities to slide to zero depth. That could be an option if the two facilities or amenities or features weren't in the same location. That's what would happen. Okay, so I just wanted to
keep
clarify.
them together if possible, just because I think that attracts. I mean, like you said, you could be offering a swim meet, and if there's a separate body of water, kids can be playing in that. No different than what they do at the Aquatic Center. They won't close down the water slide and the lazy river when we're hosting a meet.
Yep.
So you can still generate your money. And the brothers and sisters, the little brothers and sisters that are at the meet, they're so bored, it gives them something to do.
Yep, very good.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Melissa.
My name is Dan Flannery, and I'm a high school swimming coach for Ames and Girls Boys Swimming. Boys and girls swimming at the high school. I've been an educator for 17 years, and I guess I'd start this with a question to you, Keith. Is it possible for this presentation to demonstrate to the taxpayers of this community how much money Furman makes? Because I think where I would like to take my statement to is what our town needs, not what our swim team needs. And I think there's a way to benefit all parties involved, but then sell that to the community from what we have outside right now. And I guess I'll start with a compliment to the city of Ames. I run a pool in the summer at the Ames Golf and Country Club, and it's really hard to operate 20 people and service 300 families. I can't imagine what it was like to open that facility and run it the way you do. I have a 9-year-old son, a 6-year-old daughter, and an 11-year-old son, and they all are involved with ACAC or the swimming club with me at the country club, and they love the Aquatic Center. And they don't really understand what Dad does in terms of what Dad wants. They just know Dad's a swim coach. I think it's easy to stand up here and tell you what we want, and I think Professor Jenks did a good job with that, and Melissa Sorensen did a good job talking about a 25 by 50 basin, but I think it's more important to talk about a multiple basin facility for the community. If you incorporated, I call it, at least to my people that I talk with, I talk about a miniature Furman. I don't think it's feasible to put a 100-foot drop slide in an indoor facility like we got right now, albeit it's fun. But I think if you had a facility like we have outside right now with Furman, with a 50-meter basin like we have, a lazy river, multiple slide options, and you can indoor a facility like that, it's sky's the limit with activities. You really can offer everything you want. And I've done a lot of research on the topic, and you know, selfishly, I could stand up front here in the public and say, you know, I want this and I want that, but what do we need to offer the community in the winter? Because we don't have much to offer right now. And I know someone had asked about the lane space now with what the high school offers at Municipal, and it's a 25-yard by 25-yard. I guess if there's one thing to mention, I know Coach Teeter would like to probably talk on his behalf with his club, which he's done a phenomenal job with. It's a 9-lane pool. Well, the 9th lane is too shallow to swim in. In those 8 lanes, they're running 200 kids through in a 2-hour time frame so that the city can still have their water time, I can still have my water time, and the club can still have their water time. It's very crowded, and then they have a waiting list just like you guys do with your lessons. And I think when you open up a 25 by 50 basin, you have 20 usable lanes, and that's just an amazing addition of water in this town. And I think the fact glaring us in the face right now is we don't have water in this town. We have one pool inside. That's it. We can't use the Iowa State facilities because of all the NCAA rules, and I get that. But we have one body of water, and I think Will Jenks said it best. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. Let's do something that offers something for everybody, not just all the parents that might talk to you about swimming tonight and competitive swimming this and competitive swimming that, but an indoor miniature Furman facility that does have a 25 by 50 basin and a separate basin with possibly the warmest water you want in the world. You know, make it 90 degrees, I don't care. Everyone's happy, and you could even put a couple lap lanes in that second basin, so if someone wants to swim warm water lap, you can. And I think that is the thing that I really hope this discussion moves forward with, is how to address this from not only the school side, not only the swim club side, but a master's program, a water polo team. Obviously, more opportunities for kids to have lessons. Everyone needs to learn how to swim. I think, Jerry, you and I learned second leading cause of death, drowning. Drowning. I mean, what a statement our community can make with an aquatics facility. Let's teach everyone how to swim. If they want to swim for me, they can, and that's great. They want to swim for the club, they should. But let's get this out so that the diving needs are taken care of, the lesson needs are taken care of, and you know, honestly, as a taxpayer, if I have to pay let's just say my house costs $200,000. If I got to pay $34 extra a month in taxes, hey, that needs to be done, because this is something our community needs. And I think where your statistics on Furman would really help this discussion move forward is, and I don't know if you can do that, maybe you can,
No.
but I know Furman's doing well. And if it's not, I don't know how it can't. I go there, and it's amazing. It's amazing that our city can put together a staff that can run that. So I compliment you on that end. It's also amazing on another side, from the competitive thing that I've gotten to witness. Coach Teeter took over the program. He can correct me if I'm wrong, 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a big endeavor to take on, but the club has astronomically grown. And what he's done is he's trained a high level of officials that are Ames residents. And actually, other clubs in the state of Iowa are calling up our parents. Some of them are here tonight, and they're saying, hey, can you come to Fort Dodge and officiate a meet? Can you come? Because they don't have enough parents that want to be involved with that. And so from the standpoint that Furman's created this amazing staff to run an outside pool, I think it's easy for them to do it on an indoor level too, year round. And our swim club has created this amazing staff, from coaches to parents to volunteers. We can host high-level meets. My 11-year-old made the state swim meet last summer, and I had to go to Iowa City for 3 nights. I burned a hole in my pocketbook, and I would much rather just stay here. And that's a selfish way to look at it. But being a centrally located town in Iowa, if you build a facility like that, they will come. And I think it's very fair to say, from maybe some statistics that Furman could give us, I'm almost positive people come from around central Iowa to come to our aquatic center outside. And that's a testament to the aquatic center itself, the people that gave money to it, the taxpayers that are paying for it, and the city that's operating it. But what if we could offer that inside too? And that's where I'm trying hard not to talk about why we need 20 usable lanes in a 25 by 50 basin, maybe more so to look at it from the standpoint, we need a multiple 2-basin facility, kind of like what we have at Furman, and this is why. Yeah. Because it is working so well, and we have the infrastructure to run it and operate it. In terms of features to be included, we're doing that right now outside at Furman. The city has done a great job with that.
So just to answer your question, so generally speaking, Furman breaks even. Okay. Furman breaks even, which is a good thing, because there's a lot of outdoor pools in other communities that don't. And there's one other thing I would mention is there's a lot of outdoor pools that close their gates when school starts. And thanks to our staff that you're going to mention, last year we kept all of our basins open from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend, which a lot of other people, and if you saw the news last night, people are struggling to find staff, they're shortening their hours, we're able to do it. So generally break even. Last year, that fiscal year was not good just because of the cold weather and stuff. So, and I think what I'm hearing you say, Dan, in which is conversations that we had with the school district, Jerry and I have had these conversations, the commission has had these conversations, what's best for the community? And that's what we're really trying to look at it. So I think we heard you loud and clear.
Right.
It's not just a competitive side, it's the others, how can you get this all together? And even with some of the things that you mentioned, and one of the slides that we had up earlier, there are things that we just can't do right now because you're right, we don't have the water. Right. We don't have the time. And I don't know how many conversations we've had with Tim and with ACAC. We need more time. We need more time. How can we get more time? Well, there just isn't. So I think we got what you're trying to say, and look at what's best for the community.
And I guess I just have one more question. If the Furman facility, to your best of your knowledge, breaks even, what is the municipal facility doing on an annual basis? Can you answer that?
Okay.
Can Keith or does Jerry have to answer that?
From our standpoint, like we mentioned earlier, just with all the other stuff, it's about, we share those expenses 50-50. So it's about $50,000 a piece roughly for operations. In addition to that, to run the other programs that we run, we probably subsidize those by about $35,000. Right. So each year we're putting in about $85,000 to operate programs and activities at Municipal Pool.
Right. And so I guess I'll just conclude with, how awesome would it be to break even with a fantastic facility that meets the needs of everybody in this town?
Yep. And Jerry and I have had that conversation.
I think we've all had it. So, but I think it'd be a wonderful addition to Ames.
Yep.
So
very good.
Thanks
Dan. Okay. Susie.
Susie Petra. I wasn't going to speak tonight, and the commission has heard this, but for those who are tuning in and for those of you who are here, so far we've heard a lot about youth. A community's quality of life, the amenities that we have that we can participate in outside of our work life, is a major part of why people and corporations choose to live in a specific community. But by simply looking at the City of Ames Parks and Recreation catalog, you will see that we taxpayers, really have put a lot of money into providing a lot of activities for our youth and young adults. But I'd like to expand your thinking at this point beyond competitive swimming. According to the Iowa State Census Bureau, Story County is the third fastest growing community in the state of Iowa. And that's thanks to those who are 55 and older. You might not have thought about that. This age group is expected here in Story County to swell by 5,000, from about 4,000 to 7,000 in the next 5 years. Yet the programs and facilities you see in this book, as I said, are predominantly for young children. So what we need when we get a little older, and maybe some of you have had a shoulder problem or a knee replacement, or you've had a muscle problem, you need some therapy. We really have limited space for therapy for all ages, and we really could use a therapy pool. We also need, for those 55 and older, water aerobics, and I'm going to suggest not chlorine. Saline has been used, and it is terrific, and it does not corrode pipes, and it does not rot your suits, and it does not turn blonde hair green. We also find that people 55 and older, because the League of Women Voters did a survey, you probably read about that in the paper, that we also would like some indoor 12-month walking facility as well as ballroom dancing. So we also, people 55 and older, who really contribute a lot to this community, have some needs that we haven't gotten met. Staying healthy as we age is vitally important, and our older citizens really need some of that water aerobics that I'm telling you about. We are an asset. We do provide a substantial tax base. We do volunteer tens of hundreds of thousands of hours of our expertise and our time. We play a vital role in a lot of commissions here. We donate substantial amounts of money to lots of little activities that go around door to door and want to sell us cookies, etc. We do contribute to a thriving community. So I would like us, as we're thinking about a facility, to support an indoor facility that maybe the purpose is a little different than we've been thinking, not so much noisy, but since we taxpayers have already are paying for Furman, which is the outdoor activity aquatic center predominantly used by the attendees or youth, I would like this community to support a facility that has warm water therapy pool, and that's a separate basin. The medical communities in Story County could use that as well, because you know they also have a backlog of people who need that. A second basin for aerobic exercise coupled with a lap pool. And this could be used by all ages, not just 55 and older, but for swim lessons, which once used to be done at the high school in the PE program. I'm sorry to say it isn't anymore. Expectant mothers, baby experiences in the water. I did that when my daughter was less than a year. Zero, of course, depth entry, and I mentioned saline. And as long as we are thinking about the next 50 years, we ought to look at solar. And of course, I'm always still interested in a retractable roof. The Citizens Satisfaction Survey said no water slides. That would save money. We've got a lot of other things we obviously would like in this pool. I'd like a separate location. As a former educator at the high school, that's a problem. For people 55 and older, we really don't want to have that parking problem, and we would like to have hours that aren't so restrictive. So sharing the same parking lot is problematic. Suggestions. There is a 13th and Ontario Street site owned by Iowa State. Right now it's a field. They looked at it for the Aquatic Center, I understand, but I'd like us to look at that.
So
And
where is that? Because
13th Street, west and Shoal Road.
Shoal Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think people in West Ames have said for some time they wouldn't mind something in their section of town. Depending on how big it is, I still think we already own the pool park site. It has a parking spot, so a parking lot, so I think it should be considered.
Carpool.
The car park pool. I know there have been grants for people 55 and older for healthy activities, et cetera. We might have grant donations for this pool we should look into. I'd be certainly willing to help solicit donations. Thank you.
Hey, Susie, before you sit down, so when you say therapy pool, warm water, give us a little bit more, help us define that. You said a separate basin, warm water. Are you
I would talk to
talking-
the medical community. They know more than I do about what they really need for a temperature for their therapy pools.
Okay.
Okay. 55 and older would probably like something a little warmer than the high school competitive pool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the things too is just mentioned with water aerobics, we do offer a number of water aerobics classes. In fact, we partner with Green Hills to use their facility, and but we've increased the number of classes. How much, Kelly? How many new classes? Yeah, so we've offered new classes. We also offered a prenatal class, I think.
Yeah, those are great.
Out there.
Yeah.
We're using it for some of our parent-child activities. But again, so you brought up a lot of, and when we went to council with this, I don't know if you remember, one of the things said, hey, we were looking from a 2 to 100. This facility could encompass all ages. It should encompass all ages. So, thank you. Tim?
A moment, if there's a therapy pool at the McFarland in Somerset, if you wanted to talk to them, they probably could give you information about temperature and some of those.
Okay.
That's a small pool that they use there.
No,
not at all. I'm not saying it's a substitute at all, but I mean in terms of financing and operating conditions.
Yeah.
you monitor.
Yep. Yep. Okay, Tim?
Hi, Tim Teeter, swim coach, Ames Cyclone Aquatics, former Iowa State swimmer when they had men's swimming here, father of a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. I see a lot of my athletes in this room. I couldn't agree with Susie more on the need of looking at this holistically. Just looking at some of the facilities that I've been in that have separate basins. I think of like Lawrence, Kansas, has a dividing like glass wall. They have one basin on one side that is programmed sometimes for 55 plus community, sometimes for kids. They just allow more time in that space. They have the competition pool. I just think from looking at the current residents of the community and what's going to attract people like myself to move from California, the Jurgensens to move from Colorado, other families to move to Ames, to make this their home, is some of these amenities that the city had to offer. I can remember coming here and walking out on the pool deck at Furman and seeing, oh wow, I can't wait to let my kids see this place because it's like, it's an amusement park. and just to go there every morning and see the number of people that are doing lap swim at the same time that my club's starting to swim, coming back, seeing people doing water walking in the lazy river, people at the same time that kids are over in the child area. I've spent a lot of time lounging on a lounger, watching my kids, either in the little pool, my little one, that's where she kind of likes to be, and then my older one over in the big pool. I just think that it's important that we look at this holistically. I think that there's been some great communications between the school and the city. I would like to think that ACAC is also a good partner. We've provided a lot of additions to municipal. We've helped, recently they're upgrading starting blocks. We're helping pay for that. They've bought new lane lines. We've helped pay for that. We want to look to help be a solution. I look at, it's awesome that I get to work with so many kids. I would love to double that, be able to work with more. But I also think that it's important as we look at it at a community holistically that everybody's kind of needs are taken into consideration. And I think that's why a lot of people have stood up here and said this, and it's right to look at this as a multi-basin facility. The economic, as I've listened to people, I've thought about a lot of different things. I know a lot of our families, not a lot of, there's some of our families, are members to the Marshalltown YMCA in the wintertime so that they can go over there and their kids can use their 2 pools. The YMCA there has like a water slide and kiddie pool that's warmer that they have, do lessons in and stuff like that. But then they also have a competition pool for lap swimming and items like that as well. Someone used the hotel. I've stayed at the hotel with my son down in Des Moines to go on the water slides in the wintertime. I just think that this community with a great winter attraction could be, it would be very, helpful to attract more families to want to make Ames their home base. I think that's, I don't know, I ramble.
Very good.
I think that if there's a way to use a high school facility but be separate from the high school, may answer some of those issues with regard to parking if you had parking away from the high school parking lot so that it wasn't co-joined with the high school parking. I know that I don't like to go up to the high school right at 3 o'clock and all the high schoolers are making a mad dash to get out there. And I think that if you had a facility that was maybe on that location but not connected to the building, would provide opportunities for usage during the day that would be expanded for everybody. And I think that would be fantastic. I know that, I don't know if you're interested in hearing from any of the younger members of our audience, but I know that some of my kids had prepared some things that they'd like to talk to you. I think that if you'd welcome them to come up and say a few words, I think that would be great.
Yeah, anybody can come up and talk
Great.
to him. Sir, you want to go next?
Swimmers want to talk first, that's fine too. I guess, and I'm Ian McLeod. I certainly haven't been in the community for what I would say a long period of time, about 15 years now. Seems like everybody I run into has been here much longer than that. But I guess 2 things that come to mind for me. One is time. I heard, okay, we had a contract. It was 50 years long. We know the facility is outdated. We know it's costing us a lot to renovate and maintain and upkeep. So I would challenge the stakeholders to move the process forward. It seems like it's something that we've known about for some period of time, and we can analyze it to death, or we can make a decision and we can move forward. So, I know there's been a lot of analysis, and in a community like this, we want to get everybody's input and we want to make sure everybody's happy, but at some point, you need to move forward and you need to make a move. So waiting 3 more years to get input from everybody is maybe not the most effective solution, because I think the need is now, and it's 50 years from now, so it's how you plan for that. The other thing that I would say is, as somebody who has to recruit employees to come to the community and draw in that talent, we get a lot of great talent from ISU, but we don't get all of our talent from ISU. And so when they look at opportunities to come to a community, for me, one of the questions I had when I moved was, is there an ice rink in town? The answer was yes. Okay, I think I can move here. But again, it's those types of facilities and those activities that are available to people in especially northern climates. It needs to be an indoor pool facility, and it needs to incorporate everybody's needs. So I'm not getting any younger. I'm sure as time progresses, I'm gonna want that water to be warmer and warmer as it moves along. And if that involves a solution that requires multiple basins, okay, then I'll pay the tax dollars and move that forward. But again, I think I would really challenge you to move the process forward from a time perspective and make sure that we're taking into consideration everybody's needs here, both for the school and for the community at large, so.
Yeah. Thanks, Ian. And just a clarifying point, one of the things, we have kind of looking at this, we knew this for a while with municipal pool, but we did have kind of this little bit of a separation, competitive pool, recreational facility and stuff. And this is why we're, right now, this is the process to get the feedback, like I mentioned. And, the commission, they've talked about really wanting to hopefully go to a referendum next spring, which we aren't going to be able to make it just with the process and all the steps and what we've got to do. We won't be able to do anything, yet for referendum this fall. But it could be March or May of next year is what the commission has talked about for a referendum. So hopefully in 3 years from now, you'll be swimming in a new facility.
Yeah, and again, I think I've sat in the pool many hours watching people swim in the pool, and I've seen engineers pass through and other activities. So I know there's things going on, and I just would encourage you to move that process forward and not take years and years and years to try to determine what it is that we need. And again, I would echo a lot of the sentiments. If it costs me an extra $10 a year on my taxes, or 30 or 40 or whatever it is, if it's something that I'm going to be invested in for my lifetime, it's money well spent. So, and I think it's money well spent by the community as well.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, and just with that, you brought up, just jogged my memory on two things. One, Dan, when you were up, you talked about $34 a month. Those costs that I had up there was an annual cost. It's not a per month, cost. So just want to clarify, that piece. And then one thing that Susie did say when she was talking about the citizen satisfaction survey, she said that the residents in that survey said no water slides. There were 4 things that we asked about: a therapy pool, lap swimming, zero depth entry, and water slides. There are people that want water slides. It's just in those 4 things, it was the 4th priority for people. So it wasn't that they didn't want water slides, it was just the 4th priority in the selection. So thank you, Ian.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And anybody else?
Hi, my name is Steve Jurgensen. As Tim pointed out, we just moved here from Colorado, so we were probably the newbies here in the room. We moved here in March. We originally lived in Iowa about 25 years ago, but we lived in Colorado, and I just wanted to make a couple points of what we saw in Colorado, because Colorado is a big swim state now with Missy Franklin. We actually swam on the same team as Missy, and so we saw what happens when you don't plan and what can happen. As you know, or may or may not know, and Tim could speak to this better than I could, but USA Swimming is just growing leaps and bounds, increases, I don't know by what percentage every year of kids that are getting into swimming. So it's a sport that is really growing. It's probably one of the fastest growing sports in the country right now as kids get into it. But what we saw in Colorado is we have kids that are now in 6th and 7th grade, but they've been swimming since they were kindergarten, 1st grade. And a couple things they saw, because Denver did not plan, as you are doing here, is that our kids would come home, a carpool would drop them off about 10 o'clock every night from swimming. And when you have elementary kids that have to get to school, that's much too late. And it was all because they hadn't planned, they didn't have the facilities. Another thing that we saw in Denver was that a lot of kids got turned away from the sport. And I know in talking to ACAC parents, that's not yet happened, but it could get to that point. It became very competitive. So the sport was turning away a lot of kids that were trying to get into the sport. And there's so many great things that swimming offers, and I hope some of the ACAC swimmers come up here and talk including my own
But
son.
looks like we have a lineup right now.
Oh, good. But there's so many benefits. But we, like I said, we saw what happens when you don't plan, when you build smaller pools, when you don't give the facilities that you need for a community. We were driving up to an hour to get to a 50-meter pool in Denver. And our kids, I mean, since we've come to Ames, we've seen they can get more sleep. They have better behavior, better attitudes. They're doing better in school because they're getting that sleep, they're getting that rest, and it's not so much stress on them.
Yeah. So one of the things is to make sure that whatever we do, the programming side needs to be at a reasonable hour for the age group.
Well, it's just to do something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not think that the problem is going to go away, because it's just going to get worse and worse as far as needs for pool time.
Yep. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Leo?
Hi, I'm Leo Milliman, live on Northwood Drive, and I once had little tykes like this too that were competitive, and surprisingly they've gotten older. So now I'm with Susie Petra. Don't forget, we're all going to get older, and we need something for mature people. I'm there. I was reminded, any of you who saw the story of the Roosevelts, which is on IPBN, one of the best things that helped Franklin Roosevelt was when he found warm water therapy pools, the warm springs thing. So I hear a lot about this competitive stuff. I mean, I'm competitive. I can't swim a lick, but I go down. But I want to stay tuned for the mature people. Some of my questions are to Mr. Peters and the school system. I keep hearing that we need, a 100-meter, 50-meter pool, warm water, but if the school builds a competitive pool, Jerry, can that be used by other people? It's going to be cold. You're going to put ice cubes in it. And it wants to stay that way. And it's deep, and I understand all this. But do we need to, if the school builds that, can it be used by the ACAC, hosting competitive meets if you build it 8 lanes and 50 meters and more and so forth?
That's some of the topics that we've been discussing with the city of Ames. Part of what the school district's challenge is, we have the capital to be able to build the facility. We just don't have the means or methods to be able to fund that and continue operating. So our challenge is to be able to partner with an organization that we can help to reduce those operating costs. The school district's use of the facility for boys and girls swim team occurs about 6 or 7 months of the year for a few hours a day. So the percentage of available water time that the school district is going to use that is a portion. So by being able to partner with other entities or the city, they have the ability to program the water and be able to use water. It's only valuable if there's people in it splashing around. If it's just sitting there, it's a drain. So part of the discussions that we've been having with the city, not only with the water, the temperature, possibly dividing it and utilizing different temperatures between a bulkhead or different basins. We're trying to get all the pieces and parts put together, kind of mix it up in the blender and see how things gel and how they come together so we can get some efficiencies and some economies at it and really take a hard attack at that operational cost to keep that down to a minimum to be able to make this facility function. So we're trying to be able to look at not just the water temperature, the number of basins, the combination of the basins, shared locker rooms, parking I think is another consideration. If we can identify the challenges or the problems, we can look at being able to put our minds together and figure out how to solve these problems. So to be able to say that the school district wants to build a 50-meter pool that they're only going to use for high school swim team, it's not realistic because we can't afford to operate it. So that's where we're looking at being able to figure out how the partnership might work so that we can create this win-win-win. And the third win of that statement is the city, the school district, and the community as a whole. That's what our challenge is that we put towards for each other.
Well, I come from that point of view. I'm a taxpayer to the schools and to the city, and I like the idea of working together, but I've also learned and understand the difference between cold water competitive swimming and the needs for warm water. When I look at 12,000, well, thousands of swim lessons, they can't do that in 6-foot deep, 50-degree water. I know it's not that much, but, and I'm also frugal. So my recommendation, and graciously the city or the school system has offered property, if we would build a recreational pool, they would donate this property for our purpose. And to me, that would save money rather than going out somewhere and either, if we're lucky, someone would donate us somewhere else. So I'm in favor of doing things on one site, 2 pools, a competitive cold water pool and a recreational pool that would serve everybody. I also have a vision, 2 holes in the ground, and maybe some type of building in between that could be a community building, shared for receptions for your out-of-town guests, bridge clubs for other people. And if we can share resources, save it perhaps on the property, I have a grand vision, but also to save money. To the school system, I have another question. How much space are they willing to donate? And am I speaking correctly? They offered to let us use the land to build a pool?
Yeah, if
we
we
wish.
were to.
And how much time?
enter-
Is there a time limit? Like you got to make up your mind in 6 months, or?
We
is
don't
it-
have a time limit on it.
Okay.
We're working to be able to come up with the solution. As far as how much land the school board is, when we started this discussion, we talked about the existing contract, the existing agreement, the shared agreement that the city and the school district have. And we talked about, as the school district moves forward, if we consider moving forward with the 50-meter pool, we want to still be allowed, we don't want to mutually exclude the city. And so we wanted to be able to allot some space. So we drew a little cloud of space that we were going to allot for the city to be able to do what their thing is. And when we talked about it initially, we were talking about the school district was ready to go ahead and move forward with the basin, but the city was going to take some time to be able to gather the public input and to be able to pass a municipal bond to be able to fund their project. So we wanted to be able to kind of separate but keep them together so that we could have some benefit, cost benefit with whatever we could overlap, whether it's services, utilities, locker rooms, spaces that might fit in there, but then it wouldn't restrict one from the other to be able to go ahead and proceed forward. And as we went ahead and got down the road farther, and then the obvious operational cost bust came apparent, then we had to kind of reconnoiter and start back over. And so that's how we got back to this process here. Did I answer your question?
Kind of.
So there is
where I'm speaking from is
there's no time-
cooperation. Let's continue. Understanding the difference between competitive cold water and warm. I'm in favor of working together. I've heard stories that we need to redo the parking at the high school. We're talk of a new high school down the road. I mean, a lot of these things I know have to be worked out. But I just want to use the resources we have, the graciousness of the school system if they donate property. I want to make sure it's enough. Keep talking and add in the community room, whatever that may be. It can be the locker room for the diving team or whatever.
To answer your question, we don't have a time limit, and we have committed to allocating enough space for the city's portion of the interest in this venture.
Yep. Okay, good. Thank you, Leo. You tag team it? Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Annie Galvin.
And I'm Gracie Wesselman.
I've been swimming on this team for 4 years now.
And I've been swimming for almost 3 years now.
One major thing that has affected us is we have set some pretty high goals that we want to achieve, and we can't achieve them without having a 50-meter pool. An Olympic-sized pool is 50 meters, and you have to practice to be able to perform as well as you want, and we don't have that ability right now.
And we've had to take a lot of days off because of fixing of the pool. And so we've had to take time off of training for
for it to be fixed. Yeah. Okay,
So,
that's all.
for the goals, are you looking at trying for the Olympics?
Mhm.
I hope you get there. I hope you get there.
I'm Declan Duchesne. And I'm Kate McLeod, and we've both been swimming since we were 8. And we really like a 50 by 25 yard pool because we go to practice almost every day, and every day we're sometimes when the novice, pre-senior age group and seniors are all swimming together, or three of the groups are all swimming together. Some of us are crammed into 3 lanes, and some of us have more lanes, and it's hard to swim. And I think the bulkhead idea, we could put it in the middle for meets even, would be a good idea for more space. And you guys earlier were talking about time, and with the 2 separate, but still in the same pool, the 2 separate spaces, that would be more time for 2 different things at one time, so you'd have more time with both people still going at the same time. Sorry. Also, a bigger pool would mean more space, which we can't host very big meets at Ames because we don't have as big of a pool as we would want guests to show up. So we have to travel to Iowa City and a whole bunch of different places. So it would be more space for parents to sit and more people. So bigger meets could also mean encouraging other swimmers or swimmers' friends to join the team. And with the bigger pool, we would be able to let them join. And I know people on different teams from swim camp and things, and they've told me that they really like our team, but sometimes they don't want to come to our meets because of the weird roof, because it messes them all up. And the blocks are kind of flat instead of going out like that. You're always like, so it kind of messes you up, and then you go to different meets and you're not used to those blocks because you don't have them during practice. So you have to try to get as many starts as you can at a meet so you get used to those blocks. And I think a diving well would be very good for our new pool. There's one at the Iowa City pool, the Iowa Hawkeye one. It's stairs, and then there's a one right here, and then higher and higher and higher. And it's very deep, but it's warm right there. And for meets, when there's no divers there, we cool down in it. That's what happened at the Iowa City meet, and I thought that was very nice, and it worked well.
So a cool down area or warm up area would be something.
But it would also be used as a diving place, so they could dive really deep, and it's warmer.
So instead of like getting in and out makes you colder, it would be warm so they don't have to get into cold water and stay cold.
And I think the slide idea would work too, because not that I would want to go on it because it would be really fun, but it also, you guys want the attraction things, and I thought the hotel thing would be good because people from different teams, they would stay there, and that'd increase the money thing. And we could also use the warmer water walking thing for the older people as a cool down place too. If the diving, we can use that for a cool down when diving and swimming was going on. So that would work too with the different basins of water. That would work well with cool down areas.
All right.
Real quick. So also, if with a bigger pool and not located at the high school, because sometimes it doesn't always work out, the high school being right there, we have different areas we need to be at sometimes. So it would help more flexible practice hours and times to work, or if you want to do one-on-one, some things that you could focus on, it would be more flexible and bigger.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
I don't know if I can follow that very well, so I'll try my best. My name's Tim Fensel. I've lived in Ames permanently since about 2002, and I fall under the demographic of the lap swimmer who is not competitive, would love a master's club. I'm not old enough yet, but I could benefit from it, and definitely need the lessons. Time's an issue. We've all discussed that. There's only 24 hours in a day. I don't have an answer, but we need to address all the needs. I think if I learned one thing tonight, everybody, not everybody, a large consensus here, what does the group need? It isn't what do I need? What about me? It's a no-brainer. It has to happen. I think my question for you guys, before I ask my question, I guess I'd like to say, I know me, one of the other ladies that was up here, we definitely would be willing to be representative in those focus group meetings for that non-competitive swimmer that wants the wider option to just go swim laps, because we're training for a triathlon, a 5-mile swim race. We just want to be fit in another capacity. So I'm definitely willing, and I know some of the commission members, and we have exchanged contact info, things like that. So very optimistic, not only of the group that's here tonight, the commission, commend the city for having this. It has to happen. So my question is, how do we address, excuse me, the need of this when it comes to a referendum for those that don't have any vested interest in swimming? Because it's really easy to say, I don't care about swimming, I'm going to vote no.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe my question is, what's the commission's plan? You know, we can all share with our friends, church, school, coffee, whatever our group activities are, we can do that ourselves. What's the mission, the intent for the city to, it has to pass. There's no way around it. It has to pass.
Yep, so good question. So some of the things that, according to Iowa law, as a representative of the city, I cannot go out and ask somebody to vote yes or no. You know, I can't do that. I can educate and inform, the commission can educate and inform, city staff can educate and inform. That's what we can do. Now, how Furman passed, or one of the reasons Furman passed, there was a friends group that people came forward, said, hey, we want to be promoters of this. That's the group that can go out and say, hey, vote yes. Here's all the reasons for it. We can put it out, give you information to share. So one of the things, when we hand out this questionnaire at the end, there is a line at the end, or a question at the end. Do you want to continue to hear updates? Do you want to continue to hear what the progress is? If so, put down your name, your ad or phone number, your email. As we go, we'll continue to send information out. And if these things happen, a friends group is formed, or if you're interested in being part of a group like that, you know, that's something that's how it's successful, is to really get the people that are for something to get them out and vote yes. So does that kind of answer your question, Tim?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Sharon?
Sharon Goober. I live on Northwestern, 2931 Northwestern. Keith, you and I have been around for a while.
Yes, we have.
I was a physical education teacher in Ames for 34 years. We even talked about getting one of those troughs to teach swimming to the elementary students that could go from school to school. To hear that there's no swim lessons for Ames students anyplace now, it was too late to start in the high school. Safety needs to be an issue for Ames. I'm concerned about, we're getting into kayaking big. I'm concerned that people are renting and purchasing kayaks without having any safety instruction about that. How does that fit into the high school open use availability? It would be interesting to see more than just the times put up there, but maybe a time schedule of where open times are. But you know, Adults have trouble getting to the high school at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock to use the pool, 8 o'clock, you know? There needs to be sufficient access for people who have disabilities to get to the pool. You've been talking about this for a long time, and I'm wondering if you don't have some idea of footprints that you could show us. Now, when you're talking about a 25, 50 meter pool, how does that footprint fit into the high school setting? How would a footprint of that size pool and maybe not putting in bulwarks, but having a separate basin for warm water type of activities, how does that all fit into the high school setting? What other activities might be affected in terms of their facilities? What about the land that the city has? How does a footprint for a separate basin pool fit into the land that we have? What about the Shoal Road, Ontario land, if that's a possibility? How large is that? What could fit onto it? The parking is essential. You don't get people there if you don't have the parking. If the high school parking, I don't care if it's during the school day or if it's in the evening, there are so many activities that are going on there. It's difficult for people to get, access to the building. So if feasibility is going to have a lot to do with the saleability, is there anything that you can do while we're still discussing it at this point that gives us an idea of that you feel certain things are feasible that you can show us? It's one thing to say something, it's another thing to be able to visualize it.
Right.
The other thing, go ahead, Keith.
Oh, I was just going to say, as far as a footprint with some of the consultants that I've been having conversation with, and I kind of have just talked about, hey, here are some of the things that we're hearing, just for if there was a facility, if the city of Ames just were to build a facility by ourselves with potentially some lap lanes, a zero depth entry, a therapy pool, you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30,000 square feet. And then with parking and everything, you'd probably be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2 acres of space
Which is
what we would need.
An idea up there, but in terms of what we have in terms of land, how does that situate?
Well, that Shoal Road area, and that's a university, you'd have to have conversation. We have not had any conversation with them on that. That would be more than 2 acres of space.
Does the carpool location, car park, still have water access for?
It does, but that area, if we're going to build a facility like this, we're really going to look for getting it out of the floodplain and that area. I know there's parking, somebody mentioned that. There's 43 spots, 44 stalls. When you're looking at a facility like this, and especially with some of the things that people have been mentioning, that space is not going to work. Even if it was out of the floodplain, that space would be too small.
I have 2 other things. One, tone. The Aquatic Center has a tone to us. It is a fun place to be. And I know that there have been some times when lessons are hard to carry on just because of the noise and excitement there and so on. The other thing is that there was a time when the pool facility, before you got on board, I'm sure, Jerry, was falling down in terms of maintenance and capital improvements because the city and the school district were at odds to make this work. Yes, there was an agreement, but it seems like we went through 1-2 years, maybe more than that, and maybe you remember that. If you have a combined effort, you have that potential for not staying with the plan, and that concerns me. Thank you.
No, very good. And one of the things that we've talked about, Sharon, just with our conversations, and Jerry and I have had these, is as we move forward, if it is a shared facility with agreements and stuff like that, there are some things that we feel need to be done differently. So very good. Hey, if some of you are leaving, if you could, grab one of those things, and if you could fill it out quick before you leave, that would be great. Okay, otherwise, you can drop it off at the community center as well. But go ahead. We do need to kind of finish up about 8:30 because we've got to put the room back and be out of the facility by 9. So, okay, go ahead.
All right, Jen Plowman Galvin, and thank you. I commend you all for having this conversation because it's been a lot of work I bet so far, and will be a lot of work moving forward. But it's an exciting opportunity for the community. My family and I moved from another community where I worked very closely with an aquatic center, and it had 4 basins. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the intrinsic value that offered. Certainly I have an ACAC swimmer, little 3-year-old, 7-year-old, and we sometimes visit Furman Aquatic Center 4 times a day, right? Between swim lessons and ACAC, and then there's a family. That indoor-outdoor complex has that opportunity to be the Furman Center for 12 months out of the year. But not only that, inclusive for the entire community. The facility where we were associated with prior to moving to Ames had programs for older adults during the day, programs for preschool students, associated with the local preschool that was there. A competitive, it provided everything in a venue, and what it provided also was community. And you saw the friendships form, and it was much more than a place for the physical activity, which is so important that we've talked about, the mental activity, which is, comes hand in hand with that, but I think just the camaraderie in the community. And so as we move forward, I really do think we need to think about not only what we all want and need for today, but what will the community need 10, 15, 20 years from now, and really be visionary from that perspective. So think about the intrinsic value that this can bring, as well as really thinking ahead in terms of what we need down the road.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Scott, and I'm really concerned that we have a facility that can be used in as many different ways as possible. I was intrigued by your idea that maybe you could have lap lanes and they could also be used by water walkers. So that kind of thing is what I'm looking for. And I also have been hearing that the water temperature compromises are possible. So it seems to me that I'm all for sharing as much as possible because, and I looked at some of those examples of pools that had maybe 4 lap lanes. Well, that's only going to be adequate if you have like 10 hours a day when they're available. So that kind of thing, balancing when people are going to be using it with the kind of facility. And then I'm wondering, are you going to have to raise user fees? You build a bigger facility, how much are we looking at in terms of increased costs of using the facility? And then if you have a facility that's a mini Furman indoors, then might you see decreased use of Furman in the summer? I don't know. It's just things to think about. So thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and Catherine, in regards to the user fees, that would be something that once we get more information, we take all of this and we actually get some kind of conceptual drawings of what a facility would look like and do a study of the operational expenses and stuff, then we'd be able to take a look at what the fees are. Right now, we have no idea if the fees will go up, go down, stay the same until we get all that information. But thank you. Judy?
Yep. Hi, my name is Judy Lemish, and I've got a lot to say, so we've got a short time. I'll come back Monday to say some other things. So the only thing I really have to say tonight, and it is why should we vote for a bond issue for a pool? My father brought us all to Ames in 1950, 51. I was born here, raised here, I've been here, I went away, I came back. He paid taxes probably for the municipal pool to be built. My brother was in the 2nd class at Ames High. And when I came back, I pay taxes now. In fact, he probably paid taxes before Homewood was even a golf course. And now it's a golf course, and it's a great golf course. That's why we pay taxes, because we pay taxes so that everybody has an opportunity to enjoy the benefits that our taxes bring. And so I don't mind paying taxes for a skate park like we just developed, because I understand that the youth need something to use that's safe, rather than be doing it at Iowa State on the rails and all this other stuff. So that's why we need this pool, and that's why we need to convince everybody in this room, plus everybody that's coming to the other meetings, and everybody on the, you can't do that, but we can convince our friends and neighbors that they need to support this. And as far as cost goes, it was mentioned earlier, I was talking to a woman the other day here in the library, and there's a Healthy Living YMCA in Clive, Iowa. And in Clive, and I'll give you more particulars next week, but one of the things that they mentioned, it's a public-private partnership, I believe. I don't know if the Y is more of a public or, what do you want to call it?
They're a nonprofit.
Nonprofit.
Yep.
And then maybe they are also a nonprofit. Mercy Medical Center and Wellmark, the insurance company, is a for-profit business. So there are some possibilities out there. We have McFarland, we have Mary Greeley, we have, not necessarily Iowa State, but we have some corporations here in town. We have the new one that used to be, what is it? I don't know what it's named, the Workiva. I mean, there's a lot of potential. We've got new people coming to this town that would really like the amenities, and several people have mentioned this today, don't go cheap. So I say go big, or go home. We need to do this, do it right. And I want something that in a few years, maybe even 40, if I live that much longer, that I can say, I paid taxes for, and I really appreciate. So that's what we need to do. And I will come back Monday with a little more information on why I want this facility and the therapy that it offers. And there goes my pen, I think. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Judy.
You bet.
you. So anybody else? I know we have to kind of wrap up here. Thank you for all of the input, for the comments. Make sure that you complete one of those forms, questionnaires before you go. Just in regards to next steps, we're having these public education and input sessions. I mentioned earlier about the target audiences. We'll be hiring a consultant to help us sort through all this information and take a look. And we'll be working with the school district, having continued conversations. What does this look like? What do we glean from all of this information, and how do we move forward? Then we'll be coming back with some conceptual drawings. There will be some more public meetings to say, all right, here's what we heard, here's what we're thinking, here's some options, and then we'll be able to give you more of those costs. Here's what it's going to cost to build. Here's what it's going to cost to operate. We'll get that reaction. Hopefully a friends group, excuse me, what Tim mentioned earlier, how does something like this pass? It's you sitting out here being proponents. Judy, you spoke to it too. Commission will recommend to the city council a bond referendum date, which we already talked about, that may think in sometime in the spring of 2016. Hold the referendum. It passes. Then we get into design and build. So that's kind of just an overview. There's a lot of other pieces that happen with those, but that just kind of gives you a brief overview. So again, questionnaire is there. Make sure that you complete that. Leave it at the back table. I did forget to do this earlier. Just want to share some people helping. We have Joshua Thompson, who's our Parks and Facilities Superintendent. We have our Kelly Omelet in the back, who's our Recreation Superintendent, and then Jill Burt, who's our Aquatics Coordinator, and then we have Katie Cole, who's kind of capturing all of your thoughts, who is a Principal Clerk with our department. So they're the ones that do a lot of this work, and with some of the comments that people made about Furman, Jill, who's our Aquatics Coordinator, does some of those things. And I think somebody, Sharon, you asked the question about swim lessons. One of the things that Jill is working on is, and I don't know if you've had conversations with the school yet or not, is how do we maybe teach WSI classes, which is water safety instructor classes or lifeguard classes at the high school. But if we can do that, then what we do is how do we bring kids in So those people that we're teaching to be instructors, how do we bring kids in so they can be taught how to swim? It's a good experience. It's a win-win in a lot of ways. And I know Dan Flannery, if he was still here, he would say he'd love to see us teach every kid in Ames how to swim. So there are some things that that people have mentioned that we're trying to work on, and again work with the school district to make that happen. So with that said, again, thank you. If you do have any additional comments, my email address is up there. You can send me an email. You can call me. That number is 239-5349 if you wanted to do that. So if you have any additional questions, we'll still be around. Commission, you want to say anything? You've been pretty quiet over there.
I just want to thank all of you for coming, because it is really important for us. I learned. I mean, I took pages of notes, and I learned from all of you, and I appreciate you taking the time. And I would say two things. One, encourage your friends, maybe family members, whomever, your acquaintances, to come Monday night. 6:30, we'll be back here. And Thursday morning,
June 4th.
we will be here at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
So I would encourage you to do that. And then I'm going to get back to Tim. He brought it up, and I really encourage you. There's been a lot of passion here tonight, and I sat out there at one of the sessions for Furman Aquatic Center, and then I got involved. And we need you to get involved. We will present and work with the staff and come up with what we believe the plan is, but then it's up to the community to pass it, and it needs the passionate people like you to get it passed. So please don't stop your involvement tonight.
Anybody else?
I would just say, geez, thanks for coming. Like, I didn't know what to expect for a group. And like I said, pages and pages. I think we have a long ways to go, and obviously there's a lot of passion on this subject. I think we've been dealing with this for what, years?
Please excuse the interruption. The public computers will shut down in 20 minutes, and the library will be closing in 30 minutes at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
So I guess that's my call. So, all right. It's on to you, Jason.
Just to second what they said, we have spoken a lot in our meetings on the way what we feel and think what this city would want and the residents, but having you guys out here tonight opened up a lot of new ideas for me that I didn't think about, and then listen to all the different angles that everybody was talking about. We got a lot of work to do, and it's things like this that really help us make the informed decision on really what the community needs as a whole, not just what the 7 people or 6 people here on the commission feel.
I can't say any more than thank you for coming, and I have so appreciated how many people have come up and said we want this to work for everybody. I think that's important. We're here because we care about Ames and the community, and we want to do what's right for every age group and every need. And so I appreciate that it seems like we're willing to work together to find something that's going to be best for all involved. And thanks to the students who came up and shared their thoughts and their needs as well. I think it's probably good not only for us to hear that, but probably for Jerry to hear some of the things that were said tonight as well. So that's another great benefit to this evening. So thanks so much for coming out.
And thank you, Jerry, for coming and being a part. So thanks, everybody. Make sure that you drop your questionnaire off at the back table. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to come up and talk to us.